Commander Jake Harrison stood in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, watching the alien representatives take their seats around the massive circular table. The hall was built to impress visitors, with walls that stretched up so high they disappeared into darkness. Strange lights floated in the air, casting purple and green shadows across the faces of beings from across the galaxy. Jake wore his best uniform, but he still felt small in this place. The humans had only discovered faster than light traveled 20 years ago. Every other species in this room had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They made sure Jake knew it too. The Corvan representative was the first to speak. His name was Vexter, and he looked like a giant lizard wearing metal armor. His yellow eyes glowed as he stared at Jake with obvious disgust. "So the little humans have come to play with the big children," Vextar said, his voice like grinding stone. "How cute!" The other aliens laughed. The Zephyrians sounded like wind chimes when they laughed, their crystal bodies ringing with musical notes. The ethereal collective members just hummed, their ghostly forms flickering in and out of sight. Jake kept his face calm, but his hands were tight fists at his sides. He had been warned this would happen. Earth's leaders knew the aliens looked down on humanity. That was why he was here. "The Galactic Council recognizes Commander Harrison of the human species," announced the session leader, a tall ethereal whose voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Jake stepped forward. "Thank you. Come here today to represent humanity's interests in this galaxy. We seek peaceful relations with all species." More laughter filled the hall. Vextar stood up, his massive form towering over the table. "Peaceful relations? Little human, you misunderstand your place in this galaxy. Your species controls a handful of primitive worlds. Your ships are toys compared to ours. You have nothing we want." "That may be true," Jake said carefully. "We offer friendship." "Friendship," Zephyrian named Christmal spoke up, her voice like breaking glass. "What use is friendship from a species that cannot even protect itself? Your entire fleet consists of what, 50 ships? We have individual battle groups larger than your whole military." Jake nodded. This was all true as far as they knew. The human fleet that everyone could see was indeed small. 57 ships. To be exact, most were old destroyers and a few cruisers. Nothing impressive by galactic standards. Vextar walked around the table, his clawed feet clicking on the smooth floor. "Let me make something clear to you, little human. The Corvan Empire is tired of waiting for your species to understand reality. You occupy 12 star systems that we need for expansion. You will give them to us." "I don't think we can do that," Jake said. "Those systems contain human colonies. Millions of people live there, then they can leave." Vextar's smile showed. "Rows of sharp teeth. Or they can stay and become part of the Corvan workforce. We are not picky." The ethereal session leader spoke again. "The Corvan Empire makes a formal demand. Humanity will surrender the following systems." A list appeared in the air, written in glowing letters. Jake recognized the names. These were some of humanity's most important colonies. In return, Vextar continued, "We will allow your species to continue existing under Corvan protection. You will become our vassals. Your ships will serve our fleets. Your people will work for our glory." Jake felt his heart racing, but he kept his voice steady. "And if we refuse?" The whole hall went quiet. Even the floating lights seemed to dim. Vextar's yellow eyes glowed brighter. "If you refuse, we will take those systems anyway. Your little fleet will be destroyed. Your colonies will be burned. Your homeworld will learn what happens to species that defy the Corvan Empire." The other aliens nodded in agreement. None of them spoke up for humanity. None of them seemed to care that an entire species was being threatened with extinction. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked amused, others looked bored. None looked concerned. "How long do we have to decide?" Jake asked. 30 solar cycles, Vexter said. "That should be enough time for even humans to understand simple mathematics." 57 ships against 50,000. The choice should be obvious.
Ow.
Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been prepared for. The moment that would change everything. "I understand your position," he said. "I will take your offer back to Earth for consideration." Good Vextar sat back down. "Look forward to welcoming humanity into the Corvan Empire. You will make Adequate servants. Jake bowed slightly to the session leader. Thank you for your time. I request permission to return to human space immediately. Granted, the ethereal said. This session is ended. As Jake walked toward the exit, he could hear the aliens talking behind him. They were already dividing up human territory, discussing which colonies would be most useful for mining, and which populations would make the best workers. Jake reached the corridor outside the Great Hall and activated his communication device. It looked like a simple wristwatch, but it contained the most advanced human technology. He spoke one word into it. Thunderstorm. The word traveled faster than light across the galaxy, bouncing through hidden relay stations that the aliens had never detected. It reached the edge of human space in minutes, then continued deeper into the solar system, far from Earth. The cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, a woman in a military uniform received the message. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of what looked like an ordinary mining station. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. Signal received, Admiral, reported her communications officer, a young man named Pete Williams. Authorization code confirmed. It's from Commander Harrison, Lisa nodded. She had been expecting this call for weeks. The diplomatic mission to Nexus Prime had been a formality. Everyone knew the aliens would never accept humanity as equals. That was fine. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. The message to all stations, Lisa ordered. Initiate Protocol 7. Pete's fingers moved over his control panel. Protocol 7 initiated, Admiral. All stations responding. Lisa walked to the large window that looked out into space. To anyone watching, this looked like a normal asteroid mining operation. Dozens of automated ships moved between the floating rocks, their lights blinking in the darkness. But Lisa knew the truth. Those weren't mining ships. Those asteroids weren't natural. And this wasn't a mining station. How long until full activation? She asked. 6 hours for the first phase, Pete replied. 12 hours for complete readiness. Lisa smiled. It was not a kind smile. Good. Send a message to Captain Rodriguez. Tell her it's time to wake up New Olympus. Pete looked confused. Admiral? There's no ship called New Olympus in our database. Lisa's smile grew wider. There will be. In the deepest part of space, where no alien sensors could reach, something massive began to stir. For 50 years it had waited, hidden among the rocks. An ice of the outer solar system. It looked like a large asteroid, unremarkable and ignored by the galaxy. But inside, lights were coming on. Computer systems that had slept for decades were waking up. Engines the size of cities were beginning to warm up. Weapon systems that could destroy moons were charging their first shots. The aliens thought they knew humanity. They thought humans were weak, primitive, and helpless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Commander Jake Harrison's ship left Nexus Prime and headed for human space. Behind him, the aliens were already making plans to divide up human territory. They talked about which colonies to burn first, and how many humans to keep as slaves. None of them noticed the small changes in their sensor readings. None of them saw the tiny distortions in space that meant something very large was moving in the darkness between stars. The galaxy was about to discover what humans could build, and they had 50 years, unlimited resources, and a very good reason. To stay hidden, the trap was set. Now, all they had to do was wait for the aliens to walk into it. Captain Amy Rodriguez felt the vibration through the deck plates beneath her feet. After 20 years of silence, New Olympus was finally waking up. She walked down a corridor that stretched farther than the eye could see, passing windows that looked out into what seemed like empty space. But Amy knew better. This wasn't empty space. This was the inside of the largest artificial structure ever built by human hands. New Olympus was hollow, carved out from the inside over decades of secret work. From the outside, it still looked like a normal asteroid. From the inside, it was a city floating in space. Status report, Amy said into her communication device. Gravity systems at 30% and rising, came the reply from Lieutenant Dan Cooper in engineering. Atmosphere is stable. Life support is fully operational. We have air and water for 50 million people. Amy nodded. New Olympus had been Designed to support a population larger than most planets, the ship contained entire neighborhoods, parks, schools, and hospitals. People could live their whole lives inside without ever seeing the outside. But New Olympus was more than just a giant city. It was a weapon of war. Amy reached the command center and took her seat in the captain's chair. Around her, hundreds of crew members worked at control stations. The room was huge, with screens showing every part of the ship. Some screens showed the weapon systems coming online. Others showed the massive engines beginning to glow with power. Captain called out her weapons officer, Commander Rick Stone. Main cannon is charging. Its estimated time to full power is 4 hours. Amy looked at the screen showing the main weapon. It was built into the core of New Olympus, running almost the entire length of the ship. The cannon was bigger than most human cities. When fired, it could destroy a moon. Very good. What about the defensive systems? Shield generators are warming up, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. Point defense systems are active. We have over 10,000 individual weapon mounts spread across the hull. Amy walked to the main display screen, showed a map of the solar system with small dots marking the positions of the other giants. New Olympus was just one of 7 massive ships hidden throughout human space. Open a channel to Mount Fury, Amy ordered. The screen changed to show another ship's command center. Colonel Kate Murphy appeared, wearing the same type of uniform. As Amy, behind her, Amy could see similar activity as Mount Fury came to life. Good to see you again, Amy, Kate said with a smile.
Oh,
How does it feel to finally wake up the beast? Terrifying and exciting at the same time, Amy replied. What's your status? Mount Fury is coming online nicely. Our weapons are designed for close combat, so we'll be ready to fight sooner than you. 6 hours to full readiness. Amy knew that Mount Fury was different from New Olympus. While New Olympus was built for long-range combat, Mount Fury was designed to get close to enemy ships and tear them apart. It was smaller than New Olympus, only about the size of Mars. But it carried weapons that could cut through the armor of any known ship. Any word from the others? Amy asked. Continental Shield is still sleeping, Kate replied. Dr. Foster says it will take 18 hours to fully wake up something that big. The smaller ships are coming online faster, Amy understood. Continental Shield was the largest of the 7 giants. It was bigger than the planet Mercury and had been disguised as one of Jupiter's moons for 30 years. Even the most advanced alien sensors had never detected that it was artificial. The communication screen changed again. This time it showed Dr. Ben Foster, the man who had designed the giant ships. He looked tired but excited. Ladies, he said, history is being made today. After 50 years of work, we're finally revealing what humanity can really do. Ben, Amy said, explain this to me one more time. How did we keep this secret for so long? Dr. Foster smiled. Simple. We built everything in pieces. The aliens saw us mining asteroids, so we mined real asteroids. But we also hollowed out the big ones and turned them into ships.
we told everyone we were building space habitats for colonists.
We never lied about that. We just didn't mention that the habitats could move and fight. Ami shook her head in amazement. The plan had been brilliant in its simplicity. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for war while looking like they were just expanding into space. Aliens never suspected? Kate asked. Why would they? Dr. Foster replied. They thought we were primitive. They saw us struggling to build small ships, so they assumed that was all we could do. They never imagined we were thinking bigger than anyone had ever thought before. The screen changed back to the tactical display. Amy could see all 7 giants now, spread across the solar system. Each one was hidden among the asteroids or disguised as natural objects. Even now, as they powered up their systems, they remained invisible to alien sensors. Captain Rodriguez called out her communications officer, Lieutenant Sam Brooks. We're receiving a message from Admiral Carter. Put her through. Admiral Lisa Carter appeared on the main screen. She was still on her command station in the Kuiper Belt, but now Amy could see the truth about that station too. It wasn't just a mining platform. It was the command center for the entire operation. Captain's Admiral Carter said, You should know that Commander Harrison sent the activation signal 3 hours ago. The Corvin Empire has given us 30 days to surrender our colonies or face destruction. Amy felt her anger rise. The aliens were already planning to attack human worlds. They thought it would be easy. "What are our orders, Admiral?" Amy asked. "Continue the awakening process. In 30 days, we'll show the galaxy what humanity has really been building out here. But first, we need to be ready." The screen changed to show a detailed battle plan. Amy studied it carefully. The 7 giants would work together, each one playing a specific role in the coming fight. "New Olympus will be our long-range artillery," Admiral Carter explained. "Your main cannon can hit targets at extreme distance. Mount Fury will handle close combat. Continental Shield will be our fortress, protecting the smaller ships." Amy looked at the plan with growing excitement. For 50 years, she had trained for this moment. She had spent her entire career preparing to command the most powerful warship ever built. Admiral Kate said, "What about the regular fleet?" "Aliens think we only have 57 ships." Admiral Carter smiled. "Those ships will play their part too. They'll make the aliens think they're winning, right until the moment we spring our trap." The communication ended. Amy turned back to her crew. All around the command center, people were working with quiet determination. They all knew what was coming. Captain Lieutenant Brooks called out, "We're receiving status reports from all sections. Crew quarters are fully operational. The civilian population is safe and secure." Amy nodded. New Olympus carried 12 million people. Most were families of the military crew, but there were also scientists, engineers, and other specialists. They had all volunteered to live inside the giant ships, keeping the secret and preparing for this day. "What about weapons production?" Amy asked. "All factories are online," reported Commander Stone. "We're manufacturing ammunition for the main cannon. Current production rate is 1 planet killer shell every 6 hours. Amy felt a chill. Planet killer shells were exactly what they sounded like. Each one could destroy an entire world if aimed correctly. New Olympus carried enough ammunition to level 100 planets, but Amy hoped they wouldn't need to use that kind of firepower. The plan was to defeat the alien fleets in space, not destroy their homeworlds. Humanity wanted to win the war, not commit genocide. "Time to full readiness?" Amy asked. 18 hours for all systems," her engineering officer replied. "Oh, 12 hours for combat capability?" Amy looked out at the stars through the command centers. Main window. Somewhere out there, the alien fleets were preparing to attack humanity. They thought they were facing a weak, primitive species with only a few dozen ships. They were about to learn the truth about human engineering. When other species built bigger ships, they made them twice as large. When humans decided to build bigger ships, they made them the size of planets. "All hands," Amy announced over the ship's communication system. "This is your captain. After 50 years of waiting, New Olympus is finally awake. In a few days, we'll show the galaxy what humans can really build. Make me proud." Throughout the massive ship, 12 million people heard her words. In the civilian sections, families gathered around their windows to watch the weapon systems powering up. In the military sections, soldiers checked their equipment and prepared for the battle of their lives. New Olympus was no longer just a hidden asteroid. It was humanity's ace in the hole, and soon the whole galaxy would see it. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship Voidrender, watching the stars blur past as his massive fleet traveled toward human space. The Corvan War Fleet was the largest military force ever assembled by his empire. 10,000 ships of all sizes filled the darkness of space, their engines burning bright as they raced toward what would be an easy victory. "How much longer until we reach the human system?" Kethver asked his navigation officer. 18 hours, Admiral, came the reply. "The humans will see us coming long before we arrive. Their primitive sensors can at least detect ships this close." Kethver laughed, a sound like grinding metal. He was confident this would be the shortest war in galactic history. The humans had 30 days to surrender, but he had decided not to wait. Why give them time to prepare when the outcome was already certain? "What is the status of our forward scouts?" he asked. 3 destroyer groups are already at the edge of human space," reported his tactical officer, Commander Zarathal. They report normal human activity. Mining ships, cargo vessels, civilian traffic. No signs of military preparation. Kethfer nodded with satisfaction. The humans were not even trying to prepare for war. They probably hoped their pathetic diplomatic mission would somehow save them. But Commander Zarathal felt uneasy as she studied the sensor readings from the scout ships. Something about the human response seemed wrong. Most species would be frantically preparing defenses when faced with invasion. The humans seemed almost calm. "Admiral," she said carefully, "don't you think it's strange that the humans aren't panicking? They must know we're coming." Kethfer waved a clawed hand dismissively. "They know they cannot win. They're probably preparing their surrender. It will save us the trouble of destroying their fleet." Far ahead of the Corvon fleet, hidden in the shadow of a distant asteroid, Captain Ryan Clark watched the enemy approach through his ship's advanced sensors. His vessel, Whisper, was one of humanity's newest reconnaissance ships. It was small and completely invisible to alien detection systems. "How many ships are we looking at?" Ryan asked his sensor officer, Lieutenant Tony Garcia. "Final count is 9,847 warships," Tony replied. "The flagship appears to be a Corvin super dreadnought. That's their most powerful class of warship." Ryan nodded grimly. The Corvin fleet was exactly as large as human intelligence had predicted. For 5 years, human spies throughout the galaxy had been gathering information about alien military capabilities. Every ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine had been studied and analyzed. "Send the report to Admiral Carter," Ryan ordered. "Include detailed scans of their formation and weapon systems." The message traveled through hidden relay stations back to the Kuiper Belt, where Admiral Lisa Carter received the intelligence aboard her command station. She studied the data with her senior staff, including General Chris Moore, who had arrived from Earth just hours earlier. "Their formation is exactly what we expected," General Moore observed. "Aggressive and overconfident. They're not even bothering with proper screening formations." Admiral Carter smiled coldly. "Good. That will make our job easier." On Earth, President Helen Martinez stood before a joint session of Congress in the most classified briefing room in the government. The senators and representatives sat in stunned silence as she revealed the truth about humanity's secret military program. "For 50 years," she said, "every administration has contributed to Project Thunderstorm. Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, all working together to prepare for this day. The mining operations you approved funding for, the space habitat construction projects, the asteroid research missions, they were all part of this program." Senator Bill Thompson from Texas raised his hand. "Madam President, are you telling us that we've been building weapons in space without congressional knowledge?" "I'm telling you that we've been building the means to defend our species, President," Martinez replied firmly. "And in 18 hours, you'll see why it was necessary." She activated a holographic display that showed the 7 giant ships hidden throughout the solar system. The room erupted in shocked gasps and whispered conversations. "Ladies and gentlemen," the president continued, "meet humanity's real space fleet." Back in space, the Corvin fleet continued its approach. Admiral Kethfer was reviewing the battle plan with his senior officers. The strategy was simple: destroy the human fleet quickly, then demand the surrender of all human colonies. "Our intelligence reports that the humans have positioned their fleet near Mars," Commander Zarathal reported. 57 ships in a defensive formation. They appear to be preparing for a last stand. Kethfer studied the tactical display. The human fleet looked pitiful compared to his massive armada. Their ships were spread out in a thin line, as if they were trying to protect something behind them. "They're protecting their homeworld," he said with amusement. "How touching. They know they're going to die, but they want to delay us as long as possible." But Zarathel wasn't so sure. She had fought many battles, and something about this formation bothered her. The human ships were positioned too perfectly, as if they were following a careful plan. "Admiral," she said, "what if this is a trap?" Kethfer looked at her with yellow eyes blazing. "A trap? Commander? They have 57 ships, have 10,000. What kind of trap could possibly threaten us?" Zarathal couldn't answer that question, but her instincts told her something was wrong. She had survived many battles by trusting those instincts. Meanwhile, hidden throughout the solar system, the 7 giant ships continued their preparations. On New Olympus, Captain Amy Rodriguez received final reports from all sections of her massive vessel. All weapon systems are operational, reported Commander Rick Stone. Main cannon is charged and ready. Point defense systems are active. Can engage the enemy at any time? Amy nodded. What about our civilian population? All 12 million civilians are secure in the protected sections, came the reply from her security chief. Emergency procedures are in effect. Everyone knows what to do. On Mount Fury, Colonel Kate Murphy was conducting her own final preparations. Her ship was designed for close combat, with armor thick enough to ram through enemy formations. How are our boarding teams? She asked her Marine commander, Major Alex Rivera. Ready for action, Colonel. We have 50,000 Marines equipped. With the latest battle armor, if any enemy ships survive the initial attack, we can capture them. Kate smiled grimly. The plan called for capturing some enemy ships intact, to study their technology and interrogate their crews. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were very good at getting information from prisoners, the largest of the giant ships. Continental Shield was still in its final stages of preparation. The massive vessel had been dormant for so long that it took time to bring all systems online. But when it was ready, Continental Shield would be humanity's ultimate fortress. Captain Nicole Hayes stood in Continental Shield's command center, which was larger than most space stations. Around her, thousands of crew members worked at control, stations spread across multiple levels. Status report on our defensive systems, she ordered. Shield generators are at maximum power, reported her chief engineer, Commander Paul Davis. We can absorb the combined firepower of the entire Corvin fleet and barely notice it. Nicole looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. Soon those ships would discover what it meant to attack humanity. How long until the enemy reaches our outer sensor perimeter? She asked. 6 hours, Captain. They're coming in fast and confident. Nicole activated the communication system, connecting all 7 giant ships. All captains, this is Hayes on Continental Shield. The enemy fleet will be in position in 6 hours. Are all ships ready for Operation Mouserap? One by one, the other captains reported their readiness. Amy Rodriguez on New Olympus, Kate Murphy on Mount Fury, and the commanders of the 4 other giant ships all confirmed they were prepared for. Battle. Excellent, Nicole said. Remember, we get only one chance to surprise them. Make it count. The Corvin fleet raced through space, unaware that they were flying directly into the most elaborate trap in military history. Admiral Kethfer was already planning his victory celebration. He would be the admiral who conquered humanity and added their worlds to the Corvan Empire, but hidden in the darkness between planets, 7 massive ships waited in perfect silence. Their crews had trained for this moment their entire lives. Their weapons could destroy fleets. Their armor could withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. The aliens thought they knew what humans could build. They thought they understood human capabilities. In just a few hours, they would learn how completely wrong they were. The trap was set. The bait was in place. All that remained was for the enemy to take it. Admiral Kethfer smiled as his fleet entered the outer edge of the human solar system. Through the main screen of Void Render, he could see the pathetic human defensive line ahead. 57 small ships spread out in a thin formation, trying to look threatening. Look at them, he said to his bridge crew. They actually think they can stop us. The human ships were positioned near Mars, exactly where Corvin intelligence had predicted. They looked like toys compared to the massive Corvin War fleet. The largest human vessel was barely the size of a Corvin destroyer. All ships, begin the attack, Kethfer ordered. Destroy the human fleet. Show them the power of the Corvin Empire. Thousands of energy beams lanced out from the Corvin ships, lighting up space with deadly fire. The human vessels tried to dodge, but they were outnumbered almost 200. 2-1. Within minutes, the first human ship exploded in a ball of flame. Direct hit on a human cruiser, reported the tactical officer. The vessel is destroyed. More human ships died under the overwhelming firepower. Their shields collapsed quickly, and their armor couldn't stop Corvan weapons. One by one, the human vessels were torn apart. Commander Zarathal watched the battle. With growing unease, the humans were fighting bravely, but something still felt wrong. Their movements seemed too coordinated, too precise. It was as if they were following a script. "Admiral," she said, "the humans are retreating in perfect formation. That's unusual for a fleet that's being destroyed." Kethfer barely glanced at her. "They're trying to buy time. Doesn't matter. We'll catch them all." But Zarathal noticed something else. The exploding human ships weren't leaving the kind of debris she expected. The wreckage seemed wrong somehow. It's clean and too organized. On the bridge of the human command ship Determination, Captain Nicole Hayes watched her carefully planned deception unfold. The ships being destroyed were actually sophisticated decoys, built to look real under enemy sensors. Each one was packed with explosives and designed to create a convincing explosion when hit. "Phase 1 complete," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Mike Chen. "All decoy vessels have been destroyed. The enemy fleet is moving into the target zone." Nicole nodded. The Corvan fleet was now deep inside the solar system, exactly where humanity wanted them. "Send the signal to all ships. Begin Phase 2. The message traveled instantly to 7 different locations throughout the solar system. In hidden positions among asteroids and behind moons, the giant ships that had waited so patiently finally received their orders. On New Olympus, Captain Amy Rodriguez felt her heart racing as she gave the command she had trained her whole life. To give all stations, "This is the captain," to cloak the ship. "Let them see what we really built." Around New Olympus, the holographic projectors that had made it look like an ordinary asteroid suddenly shut down. The massive ship appeared in space like a mountain materializing out of thin air. The same thing happened throughout the solar system. Mount Fury revealed itself near Jupiter. Continental Shield dropped its disguise as one of Saturn's moons. "Thought!" Other giant ships appeared in position surrounding the Corvan fleet on Voidrender. The sensor officer stared at his displays in disbelief. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy signatures appearing all around us. The sensors show 7 large objects that weren't there before." Kethfer turned to look at the tactical display. What he saw made his blood freeze. His fleet of 10,000 ships was suddenly surrounded by 7 massive structures. Each one was larger than anything he had ever seen. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Those objects are the size of planets." Commander Zarathal felt her worst fears confirmed. "Admiral, those aren't asteroids or moons. They're ships. The humans built ships the size of planets." The truth hit Kethfer like a physical blow. The humans hadn't been weak at all. They'd been hiding the most powerful fleet in galactic history. His 10,000 ships suddenly seemed small and helpless. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he ordered, his voice shaking. The main screen changed to show Captain Amy Rodriguez on the bridge of New Olympus. Behind her, Kethfer could see a command center that stretched beyond the limits of the screen. The scale was overwhelming. "This is Captain Amy Rodriguez of the Human Defense Fleet," she said calmly. "You are completely surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately, or face the consequences of your aggression." Kethfer looked at the tactical display again. His fleet was trapped in the middle of a sphere formed by the 7 giant ships. Each human vessel was larger than his entire command squadron combined. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said you only had 57 ships." Amy smiled coldly. "Your intelligence was correct. We do have 57 ships in our regular fleet, but we also have 7 ships in our planetary defense fleet. You didn't ask about those." The Corvan admiral felt rage overcoming his fear. His empire had never surrendered to anyone. The Corvan Empire does not yield to inferior species. "All ships, attack the human vessels. Show them our power." The Corvan fleet opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of energy beams and missiles struck the giant human ships. The weapons that could destroy normal warships hit the human vessels like raindrops hitting a mountain. On New Olympus, the shield impact alarms barely registered. Commander Rick Stone looked at his defensive displays with amazement. "Captain, enemy fire is having no effect. Our shields are absorbing their entire attack without strain." Shield strength is still at 100%. Amy nodded. She had expected this. The giant ships were built to withstand attacks from entire fleets. The Corvin weapons couldn't even scratch their paint. Return fire, she ordered. Main cannon, single shot. Target their flagship. The main cannon of New Olympus was a weapon beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. It ran through the center of the ship for thousands of kilometers. When it fired, it released more energy than most stars produced in a day. The beam that struck Voidrender was wider than the ship itself. Admiral Kethfer had just enough time to see death approaching before his flagship simply ceased to exist. The massive Corvin dreadnought was vaporized instantly, leaving nothing but glowing particles. Throughout the Corvin fleet, crews watched in horror as their most powerful warship was destroyed by a single shot. The weapon that killed it was clearly capable of destroying entire fleets. "This is impossible," whispered a Corvin captain on another ship. "Nothing has that much firepower." But the giant human ships were just getting started. Mount Fury moved forward, its engines creating thrust that could push moons out of orbit. Colonel Kate Murphy targeted a cluster of Corvin battleships. "Fire all forward batteries," she ordered. Mount Fury was designed for close combat. Its weapons were built to tear enemy ships apart at short range. When it fired, space itself seemed to burn. Dozens of Corvin ships exploded simultaneously, their armor unable to stop the devastating assault on Continental Shield. Captain Nicole Hayes coordinated the attack of all 7 giant ships. Her vessel was the largest and most heavily armed. When it fired its main weapons, entire sections of the Corvin fleet simply disappeared. Commander Eric Johnson, weapons officer aboard Mount Fury, watched in awe as his ship's primary cannon obliterated a Corvin battle group with a single shot. The engagement wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration of absolute power. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from her tactical station, "enemy fleet is breaking formation. Multiple ships are trying to retreat." Colonel Murphy smiled grimly. "Let some of them go. They need to tell the galaxy what happened here." The battle lasted 6 hours, but the outcome was decided in the first 6 minutes. The Corvin fleet, once the pride of their empire, was reduced to scattered debris and a handful of surrendering survivors. Ships that tried to retreat found their path blocked by the giant human vessels. Ships that tried to fight were destroyed instantly. Ships that surrendered were taken prisoner by human marines who boarded them in small craft. As the last Corvin resistance collapsed, Captain Amy Rodriguez opened a channel to the surviving enemy ships. "This is the human defense fleet. The battle is over. Any ship that wishes to surrender should power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that continues to resist will be destroyed." One by one, the remaining Corvin vessels surrendered. Their crews had seen enough destruction to understand that further. Resistance was pointless. In the command center of New Olympus, Amy looked at the tactical display showing the aftermath of the battle. Where once there had been 10,000 enemy ships, now there were only scattered survivors and floating wreckage. "Send a message to Admiral Carter," she ordered. "Operation Mousetrap is complete. Enemy fleet destroyed. Minimal damage to our forces." The message that reached Admiral Carter was simple. Humanity had won the most decisive military victory in galactic history. The species that the aliens had dismissed as primitive and weak had just proven they were the most powerful force. In the galaxy, the trap had worked perfectly. The giants were awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than light, carried by the few Corvin ships that had escaped the battle. In every alien capital, in every space station, on every colony world, the same impossible message was being received. The Corvin Empire's greatest fleet had been destroyed by humanity in less than 6 hours, on Nexus Prime. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. The Great Hall that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's expense was now filled with terrified whispers and shocked silence. The new council leader, a Zephyrian named Christhana, stood before the assembled representatives. Was dim with fear, lacking the bright glow that usually indicated confidence. "The reports have been confirmed," she announced, her voice like breaking glass. "The Corvin War fleet has been completely destroyed. Admiral Cathfer is dead. Less than 200 ships out of 10,000 survived a retreat." Ethereal representative flickered into view. "How is this possible? Human technology was primitive. Their fleet was tiny." "Apparently," Christina replied, "we were wrong about human capabilities." The massive doors of the council chamber suddenly opened with a deep, rumbling sound. The aliens turned to see something that made them step back in terror. Admiral Lisa Carter walked into the hall, but she was not alone. Behind her came a squad of human marines in advanced battle armor, their weapons clearly visible. But what truly frightened the aliens was what they could see through the open doors. New Olympus hung in space outside the station, its massive bulk dwarfing Nexus Prime completely. The space station that had seemed so impressive now looked like a small toy next to the planet-sized human warship. Admiral Carter walked to the center of the hall with calm confidence. She wore a simple uniform, but every alien in the room knew they were looking at the representative of the galaxy's new dominant power. "Council members," she said, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "I am Admiral Lisa Carter of the Human Defense Fleet. I believe we need to discuss some changes to our previous agreements." Kristana's voice shook as she spoke. "Admiral Carter, the Galactic Council formally apologizes for the aggressive actions of the Corvin Empire. We had no knowledge of their planned attack on human space." Lisa nodded politely. "Of course you. Didn't the Corvin Empire acted alone when they threatened to destroy our colonies and enslave our people? I'm sure the Council had nothing to do with that decision." The sarcasm in her voice was clear. Everyone in the room remembered how they had laughed when the Corvins made their demands. None of them had spoken up for humanity. "The Council would like to offer humanity full membership with all privileges," Kristana continued desperately. "We propose new trade agreements that would be very favorable to human interests." Lisa smiled, but it was not a warm expression. "That's very generous. But I think you misunderstand the situation. Humanity's not asking to join your little club. We're telling you how things are going to work from now on." She activated a holographic display that showed the positions of the 7 giant ships throughout human space. The aliens stared in horror at the scale of the human fleet. "These 7 vessels represent just the first phase of human military expansion," Lisa explained calmly. "Construction has already begun on 12 more ships of similar size. The next generation will be even larger." An ethereal representative spoke up, its voice trembling. "Admiral, surely we can reach some kind of agreement. The galaxy has always been governed by consensus and cooperation, has it?" Lisa asked. "Because 3 days ago, you were planning to divide up human territory among yourselves. You were discussing which of our colonies to burn and which of our people to enslave. That doesn't sound like cooperation to me." The hall fell silent. No one could deny the truth of her words. Dr. Ben Foster stepped forward from behind Admiral Carter. The aliens recognized him as one of humanity's leading scientists, though they had no idea of his real role in the military project. "Let me explain something about human engineering philosophy," he said. "Other species in this galaxy build incrementally. When you want a bigger ship, you make one that's 20% larger than your previous design. When humans want a bigger ship, we ask ourselves, what's the biggest thing we can possibly build?" He gestured toward the display showing New Olympus. "This ship contains 12 million people and can destroy planets. We built it because we wanted to be absolutely certain that nobody would ever threaten humanity again." Corvin representative, one of the few survivors of the destroyed fleet, spoke up with obvious fear. "How long have you been building these weapons?" 50 years, Dr. Foster replied. "We started planning them the day after first contact with hostile aliens. Every human administration since then has contributed to the project. Republicans, Democrats, every political party working together for the same goal." The aliens exchanged nervous glances. 50 years of secret preparation meant that humanity had been playing a completely different game than anyone realized. Admiral Carter activated another display, this one showing detailed scans of alien technology captured from the destroyed Corvin ships. "Your weapons and defenses are now fully understood by human science. We know exactly how to counter every technology in your arsenal." She paused to let that sink in. "On the other hand, you know almost nothing about our real capabilities." The ships you just saw represent technology that's decades ahead of anything in your databases. President Helen Martinez appeared on a communication screen from Earth. The aliens recognized her as humanity's leader, though few had paid much attention to her before. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said, "humanity has no desire to conquer or destroy other species. We want to live in peace, but that peace will be on our terms, not yours." She looked directly at the alien representatives. "From this day forward, any attack on human territory or human citizens will be met with overwhelming force. Any attempt to threaten our colonies will result in the complete destruction of the aggressor's military capabilities." The president's expression softened slightly. "However, we are prepared to offer protection to species that wish to become our allies. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Pirates, raiders, and aggressive empires threaten peaceful worlds every day. Humanity is prepared to provide security for those who ask for it." Several of the smaller alien species looked interested. They had always been victims of larger empires like the Corvins. The idea of human protection was appealing, especially after seeing what human weapons could do. Admiral Carter stepped forward again. "The Galactic Council is welcome to continue existing, but its authority is now limited. Humanity will not be bound by decisions made by species that recently tried to enslave us." She gestured toward New Olympus, visible through the chamber's windows. "This ship, and the 6 others like it, will patrol the galaxy, maintaining peace and protecting our allies. We suggest that aggressive species reconsider their policies." Captain Amy Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system from New Olympus. "Admiral Carter, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different Corvan colonies. They're asking for human protection from their own military." Lisa nodded. "Grant their requests. Send peacekeeping forces to any world that asks for our help." The implications were staggering. The Corvan Empire was collapsing as its own people turned to humanity for protection from their warmongering leaders. Commander Jake Harrison, the human diplomat who had started this whole chain of events, stepped into the council chamber. The aliens who had mocked him just days before now looked at him with obvious terror. "Council members," he said politely, "I believe my previous message was unclear. When I said humanity respectfully declined your offer of vassalage, I meant that we had already chosen a different path." He smiled at the assembled aliens. "We chose to become the dominant power in this galaxy. I hope that clarifies any confusion." Over the following weeks, the new reality became clear throughout the galaxy. 7 giant human ships took up patrol routes that covered every major star system. Pirates and raiders who had terrorized shipping lanes for decades suddenly found themselves facing weapons that could destroy their entire fleets with single shots. Peaceful species that had lived in fear of aggressive neighbors suddenly found themselves under human protection. Trade routes that had been too dangerous to use became safe highways guarded by planet-sized warships. The Corvan Empire formally surrendered after 3 of their remaining fleets were destroyed by a single human ship. The Ethereal Collective and Zephyr and Union both signed mutual defense treaties with humanity, acknowledging human leadership in galactic affairs. On Earth, President Martinez addressed the nation from the White House. For the first time in 50 years, she could reveal the truth about humanity's greatest achievement. "My fellow Americans," she said, "today I can finally tell you what your tax dollars have been building in space. For half a century, every American administration has contributed to the most ambitious project in human history. We have built a fleet that makes us the dominant power in the galaxy." She paused as the camera showed images of the giant ships patrolling space around Earth. "These vessels represent American engineering, American determination, and American values.